So please welcome Lisa Martin.
We need more than one volunteer, Josh, here. I brought broads just to make sure we get some more, okay? I'm not used to sitting down talking, so if it's okay if I just walk around and do this. Oh, wait, no, don't give them out. No, not yet. Hold on. They have to earn those. You know, like the Saints' new emblem, their new motto, earn it. You'll get a chance. First of all, in communications, when you're doing interviews, what you want to do is you want to make sure you bring some energy, some excitement, something to the interview. You just don't want to go up to somebody and say, excuse me, come here. Who are you?
Eduardo.
And what grade are you in?
Freshman.
See how boring that was for Eduardo? Thank you, Eduardo. See how boring. Now, if I had some energy, if I had some pizzazz, if I had something with me when I went to see him, he probably would have given me some information. And if I didn't ask him stupid questions, he probably would have a lot to say. One of the things that bothers me the most about people asking questions is when they ask something that's just dumb. I have a 130-pound golden retriever. He walks on 4 legs. He's real furry. He's got a big tail. His name is Sam. I have him on the end of a big leather leash, and I'll be walking, and somebody will say, "Walking your dog, huh?" It's like, no, I'm flying a kite. No, I'm curing, AIDS. I'm finding, the solution to world hunger. Yeah, no, of course I'm walking my dog. They do the same thing when I'm washing my car. So the one thing you don't want to do if you're interviewing somebody is to ask them some stupid question. Larry, you're wearing a red shirt, huh? Duh, hello. So skip those kinds of questions and get right to the point. Another thing you don't want to do is you don't want to bore people with details that we already know. Where are you a student? Are you a Loyola student? This is so-and-so. They're a Loyola student there, and this year at Loyola. Who cares? We want you to get right to the dirt, okay? And that's what I want you to do next. I want you to take 3 minutes, get next to somebody in the room. Everybody has to have a partner for at least 2 times that I'm here. So find somebody in the room, and I want you to find out something so weird about that person that we will never forget that, and we will always be able to identify that person by the weird thing. But now wait, this is going to be on the internet. This is for television. So you have to think of your audience. It can't be, it's got to be for mom and dad and the kids. So, okay, go for it. 3 minutes. 2, 1, volunteers. Come to the microphones, volunteers. Now wait, before you come downstairs, I have to tell you, if you say one of the boring things, you're going to get zapped. And all it means is I'm going to go, and then you're not going to get a chance to win candy from Josh. So, okay, I heard a lot of laughter. I need somebody to come down here and tell me something weird about the person you're sitting next to. All right, come on, come down to the microphones. Let's go. Get this party started. Come on, I heard more people talking. Let's get down. Okay.
Well, I met Blair, and he collects bow ties. Yeah.
Josh, give him some candy. Make sure he gets some candy. He collects bow ties? Okay. Cool.
Patrick Crilly once was in a Speedo, and only a Speedo, at his high school.
Patrick, take a stand. You want to get him back?
I didn't get any juicy enough. He got all the
Oh, man. We need 5 minutes, I think. Who else? Come on. Come on, especially those people upstairs in the corner in the dark. Come on down here. I heard you laughing. Come on. Do you want me to call on you? I went to prep schools. I'll do that. Okay, you who put your hand up with the blue and white shirt. Come on. Yeah, you. Come on. Certainly you found out something interesting. Don't turn around. Come on. With a can in your hand. Come on. What did you find out? The reluctant interviewer. You can't be shy. This is a great teaching moment here. When you have to do something like this, you can't be shy. Even if you are shy, I'm shy. You have to have an out-of-body experience. You have to just leave you at home, put you aside, and let that interviewee or person come out so they can do this job. Okay, come on. Let your interviewer person
Andrew's
come out.
mom owns a horse farm.
He's a what?
Andrew's mom, right there, owns a horse farm.
Okay, you got to do better than that. A horse farm. Yawn. Your audience is falling asleep. Come on, give us something else. You found something.
got something.
That's right, Josh. Keep the candy away from him.
Hey, I got something. I found out that John Worthington is actually a robot. No, I'm just kidding. Michael here, when he plays music, he visualizes colors.
Good job. Okay, Mike, he gets some candy for Michael's story. All right.
Okay, so I just met Evan right here with this orange shirt, and he's Scottish and wears a kilts very often around his house.
Good. He gets candy for that, for the kilts. You get candy. Okay.
Okay. Reed here has streaked through Audubon twice.
Oh. You get applause and candy. Good job, Bun. Anybody else? Is that it, you bunch of chickens? Okay. Okay. I think you hit the jackpot. I think you win. Okay, you want to pass some candy up to her, please, Josh? So this is great. What you have to do is you have to get right to the point, and you guys got right to the I'm just kidding about the horse farm. If you would have added some, embellishments to it, you probably would have gotten some candy, and maybe if we have some left, I'll give you one. Okay, but you got to get us in, because you know why? People are watching. How many channels on television do we have now? 500 channels or something like that, and you can watch anything you want. And so if they turn on your channel and you're telling us about something that's really mundane, what are people gonna? What are you gonna do? Yep, with the remote control, you're just gonna get rid of that person. So you don't want to do that, and you don't want to have somebody do that to you. So what you want to do is just start with your best stuff. You want to, when you have to ask questions, you want to develop a list of questions, which means first you have to background yourself. So you have to find out everything you can possibly find out about the person you're interviewing. Because first of all, if there's somebody who's been in the industry for a long, long time, guess what? Probably everybody in the world has already interviewed them, and you're just the next one, and they've answered these questions a million times. I had to interview Robert Duvall when he did the movie The Apostle, and I read everything he ever, all the interviews he ever did practically. I watched him on tape. I saw his mannerisms. I knew what he was going to talk about. And guess what? I tried to figure out a way to get him to answer a question that he wouldn't answer. Everybody said he won't answer this question, and it was, I don't know if you guys remember The Apostle, but it was a movie about a preacher whose associate preacher, or pastor whose associate pastor, stole the pastor's wife. And I thought, he wrote the movie, he directed the movie, he produced the movie, he edited the movie, he did everything for this movie. And the story that was going around at the time was that Robert Duvall, who's an avid tango dancer, paid for his wife to get tango lessons, and supposedly she ran off with a tango instructor. And the movie just had so many parallels to the alleged tango incident that I wanted to get him to answer that, but guess what? He was so smart, he would never answer that question. But you have to try to move a story along. You don't want to just keep rehashing the same thing that everybody's already said, and you don't want to bore the person you're talking to by asking them questions that they've answered 1,000 times. One time I had to interview, I think it was Carmen Electra. It was one of the Baywatch. I had to interview all of the Baywatch gang, and one of them had just had a baby. And I didn't know this, but I asked her, I said, of all the things you've ever been asked, what's the one thing nobody's ever asked you that you would love to talk about? And she just had a baby, and she wanted to talk about motherhood and how great it was and how it changed her life. And she had a beautiful answer, and I thought, wow, that's a good question. I'm going to have to use that. So you guys can use that question if you decide to do this program. Another good question that Hoda Kotb told us about. Hoda Kotb is with NBC, and she came to speak to my broadcast, my beginning reporting class, and she said, my favorite question is, what's your biggest fear? What's your biggest fear? Everybody in here has a biggest fear, and they never talk about it. And if you put it in context, if you get somebody to talk about something like that, generally it's going to be something that nobody's heard before. So you want to try to get some questions like that. When you think about your questions, you want to make sure you've researched, you've done everything possible to find out all you can know about the person you're interviewing, and then you want to write your questions. And you want to write your questions with a purpose, your purpose. Why am I doing this interview? Who is this person? What do I want people to know about them? And make sure you write down your questions and make them logical. If you're going to start asking about the person's training, when did you go to school? How early did you learn? When did you learn that you like music? How many instruments do you play? And all that. If you ask about the beginning of their lives, then stick to that part, because if you ask about the beginnings of their lives and then you ask about their new big hit and then you go back to the beginnings of their lives, it's going to seem a little bit disjointed. So when you format your questions, be sure to ask them in a logical order that makes it sound like a conversation. If you ask, oh, here's my favorite. I need a volunteer, please. Oh, good. Come on down. Because I want to teach you about why you need to avoid yes and no questions. Okay. I just want, you can just stand here at the microphone if you don't mind, please. Okay. Are you a Loyola student?
Yeah.
Are you studying physics?
No.
Are you going to be a brain surgeon when you get out of here?
No.
Do you wish I'd let you sit down?
Sure.
Okay, but you can, all right. You can. Because now I have to give examples of how, if you were doing an interview, how you would ask the questions, okay? What made you choose Loyola?
It's awesome.
2 words.
I heard about it at the college fair and just started learning more about it. Yeah. And I came down here and auditioned, and I got in, and yeah, that's happened about it.
Don't leave. I want you to notice something. What did I ask him? An open-ended question. Thank you. I asked him, what made you choose Loyola? He could have said anything. And did you notice how uncomfortable I made him? Because he didn't answer me, to my satisfaction. So I just stood here like Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes. So I just looked at him. And it's called an awkward silence when you don't give them anything. I'm not you. You're not my enemy. I'm just using you as an example. But you don't give the person you're interviewing much time to wiggle out of the question. If they haven't answered your question, you can just sit there. And it's so awkward to have silence in the conversation that the person is generally going to say something. So you can usually get some really good information from somebody if you pull that awkward silence. Anybody ever break up with somebody before? Yeah, okay. You know what it's like when you ask a question, especially if that other person wasn't being faithful or great or whatever, and you ask them a question and they don't answer you sufficiently and you just wait. It's like, that's not the answer I'm looking for. And you wait for that awkward silence. You give them that pause. That's the thing that's going to get you the answers to your questions. Another question, let's see. What do you plan to do career-wise once you leave here?
I plan on working for a record, like a studio, maybe a record store, whatever I can get.
And beyond that,
And beyond, I'm pretty open-minded about it.
Okay. So did you get a card from Mr. Fowler from Tipitina's?
Sure.
You may want to do that since you're pretty open. What industry experience have you had, and do you plan to attain before you graduate?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Do you have any experience in the industry?
Somewhat. I've worked with recording equipment, and I had a band that put out a CD.
Cool. How did it do?
It was pretty good quality CD.
Pretty good quality CD. That probably means.
The sound, it wasn't done with like one microphone on like a drum.
Mm-hmm.
It was like done with like stuff that's relevant, like the industry that they use.
So if people want to do some recording, they could see you already because you have that experience.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, this man has experience. He has talent. He's done some things. Thank you. And look at that. He gets a car, and he. Another thing you have to be careful of when you're doing interviews is try not to be so caught up in your list of questions that you don't listen to what the person is saying. You're so busy looking at your next question that they might have just answered your next question in their answer, and you're listening and okay, well, I've got to ask this question because it's next, because that's how I planned it. And you ask that question anyway because you're going to look a little like you're not paying attention. So pay attention, because a lot of times what's going to happen when you get somebody to interview is they're going to tell you something that doesn't even answer the question that you asked, but it's going to take you in a better route. So you want to go with that, and you just want to be a little bit flexible. You don't want to be, bound to your questions, because they're just a guide. They're not necessarily what you have to do. Microphone techniques. If you're mic'd in on the set, you won't have to worry about where the microphone goes because there are people handling that for you. There's Josh. Josh already has me mic'd, so I don't have to worry about what to do with the microphone or where it goes. But ladies, just for your information, when they give you a lavalier microphone, that's what this is to put on, always turn your back to the camera. You know why? I worked in news for 11 and a half years. I can't tell you how many times the people in production, and nothing bad about people in production, I love production people, but they would get stills of people in various stages of putting on their mic. So you just want to turn away from the camera, and I'm turning towards the other camera. So you turn away from the camera, put your mic on, and then turn back around, and you're all dressed. So that's just one little tip for the ladies. With mic checks, and unless you're with a band and you're doing, it sounds really cool to say mic check 1, 2, 3, 4. If they ask you for a microphone check, what you want to do is just speak in your normal tone of voice and just say something that you would say ordinarily. My dog Sam loves greenies and frosty paws. And the only time he's ever been mad at my dog Danny, the puppy, is when she came over to steal his frosty paw. But Sam has such a good attitude that he would never bite her or growl at her or anything. He just gives her that look like, that's mine. I know you have your own. And that's how you give a mic check, because the person who's doing audio doesn't want to hear you say, mic check 1, 2, 3, 4. You know why? Because that's not how you're going to be talking through the whole interview. So find something that you're going to be talking about and say it, or find something that you feel comfortable saying and say it. That's your mic check. Everybody get a pen. You still need the same partners. Everybody has a pen? Get one out. Because you're going to learn how to use a microphone. You don't blow into it like I just did. That's not a good thing. Okay, everybody have a pen? Here's how you do it. When you speak into the microphone. And when somebody answers your question, you move the microphone to them. And they talk. Okay, so now remember you just were talking to somebody. I want you to ask that person a question, and I want you to let them answer you, okay? So ask the person a question while you're speaking into the microphone, and then let them answer like that. Right. Everybody think they got it? Anybody really good at it? You're really good at it? Okay, you have to bring your partner down here. Come on, you guys, come down here. Both of you. Because you have to have somebody to interview. Come on. And, I think you guys are really good. I noticed you especially, so why don't you, you two, come on down. No, you guys too? Okay, come on. Both of you. All 4 of you. Can we get this microphone? Okay, I want you to do just a quick interview with him, please.
One question each, or how many?
Just feel it. Go for it. Let's see how you do.
How long have you played the congas for?
15 years.
What other instruments do you play besides the congas?
Trumpet.
Very interesting. Shall I keep going, or should we
Sure,
switch?
keep going.
What foreign countries have you visited, Carlos?
The Dominican Republic.
Very interesting. Would you consider yourself an island or a mainland man?
Island.
I agree.
Wonderful. Good job. We heard every word they said. Okay, our next team, who's doing the interview? Okay, and just stand right up there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Toya. So what did you do today?
I drove here, went to class, had lunch, slept, and now I'm at class again.
Okay, you said you drove here. Where are you from?
Denham Springs, Louisiana.
Okay. What classes did you go to today?
Theory 3 and Forum.
Okay. And how was lunch today? You said you went to lunch. Where'd you go?
Went to Hooters and got wings. It was really good.
Okay.
Very nice. Okay, now I want you to do one more exercise for me, please. Some nodding is okay, and this is what you're learning right now. If you're asking a question and the person's saying something really interesting, you can nod just a little bit to indicate that you're listening to them. You haven't fallen asleep. It's okay for them to keep on this conversation trail. Okay, Too much nodding looks ridiculous. So I want you, since I like the ridiculous, I want you to ask her a question, and I just want you to nod the whole time she's answering you, okay? Make sure it's a question that she'll have to take a long time to answer. Okay.
Okay, so Atoya, you're a student here at Loyola?
Yes.
Okay, so what's your major?
Music industry studies with emphasis in piano.
Okay, so Atoya, what do you plan on doing with that?
Plan on going into entertainment law.
Okay, is this enough?
It feels so awkward, and especially if you're interviewing, let's say, an alleged axe murderer, and you're saying, so what was it like when you killed all those women? And he's saying, it was great, I really loved it, and you're standing there and you're shaking your head like, I agree, I can't wait to do the same thing myself. So it really feels uncomfortable. So if you limit your nodding to, just minor nodding, just the acknowledgement, that's good. Another thing that really annoys people, especially editors, is when the person who's doing the interview says, the whole time you're trying to ask questions, because the editor can't find a place to get you out of the soundbite. I do celebrity interviews all the time, and one of the things that I know I can't do is speak. I can't be seen. Most times I'm not even mic'd because you don't hear my voice. If I'm doing an interview for Entertainment Tonight or Access Hollywood or E, you never see me. You might see my name and the credits roll by so fast that if you don't pause it, you're not going to see it, and it's so small. But when I'm there, I'm just invisible. I'm just the person who's getting the information for somebody else who's talent on the show to actually ask the questions or phrase whatever it is they want to put around the interview, around the soundbite, to do it so that it sounds like they're there. Do the question, but ask her
about her weekend. Atoya, how was your weekend? What did you do?
It was good. I went to Houston to see my family, and let's see, what else did I do? I went shopping, and that's about it.
So, you went to Houston. Did you visit family? What kind of event was going on?
Why you saying, I said I visit family.
You heard that? Remember we talked about that? You're listening, you're thinking so hard about your next question, you didn't hear what she just said. She went to Houston to visit family, and you said, did you visit family? But when you're so busy talking to yourself, saying those that can kind of throw you off. You did a great job. You guys were fabulous. Thank you. Oh, yeah, Josh. See, Josh, the candy man. What you want to do before you start an interview is you want to establish a tone. First impressions count. So if you're going to be interviewing somebody, you want to make sure you make a really good first impression. And you have to do this even before you meet the person, because what if they walk in and they see you doing something really gross, yawning with your mouth open, or what if they saw you coming out of the restroom and you didn't wash your hands? That's not a good first impression. That person's probably not going to want to shake your hands when you go to reach for it in the interview. So you really have to stay on guard. You have to know that you're always going to be in the limelight. Everybody's going to see you. So, walk in with a strong stride, have your head up, have your rib cage separated, from your, have your rib cage up high. Unless it's a somber occasion, you want to convey energy and excitement. I remember I had to interview Christina Aguilera for, I can't remember which channel it was, but she was down here for Mardi Gras with MTV. And we were supposed to interview her early in the morning. So I'm on Bourbon Street with all the other crews from all the other networks who were going to do the same interview. And they said, okay, you'll interview her at 11 o'clock, and it was 9 in the morning. And so we're dressed, and it was it was Mardi Gras, so it was a time of year when it's freezing cold, and then it gets really hot, and then it gets cold again, and that's how long it took. They said 11 o'clock, they said 1 o'clock, they said 5 o'clock, they said she has to have a nap, she has to eat some dinner, and by the time we got to interview her, it was 11 o'clock at night, and I was freezing cold because I didn't wear the right clothes. I didn't expect to be there all day. My feet hurt because I was on Bourbon Street all day in the wrong shoes. It was just a nightmare. I was hungry because I didn't want to leave because they didn't stick to the schedule, and they didn't really tell us when we were going to interview her, and I didn't want to go out and get something and then come back and find out I missed my one chance to interview her. So by the time we finally got to interview her, it was about 11 o'clock at night. And it was so weird because she just walked by us on her way to the hotel. And she was just so tired. She was exhausted. She'd been dancing all day. She'd been practicing all day, and she was full of energy. And I saw her walk by, and she was just really dragging. And I thought, God, I have been here all day just to interview her for one, 30-second soundbite on whatever the show is. She's got to be more exciting than she is right now. So when she walked up to me, I said, Christina, they love you at Mardi Gras. What do you think of New Orleans? She's like, oh, great. It was, she picked up my energy. And it was a great interview. And I remember seeing it on the air, and I thought, wow, this is amazing, because that time of the night with no food and no sleep and no rest and freezing cold, I could have gone to her just like I did for Eduardo and said, so, how do you like Mardi Gras? And she would have given me that kind of boring answer. So you have to establish a tone. You have to make sure you have that energy. And look for quotes and anecdotes. Try to get people to tell you a story. And if you've heard about a story that somebody's told already, try to get them to retell that story, because usually people tend to embellish a story a little bit, so it'll be better the next time you hear it and when it's on your air. Another thing, you want to use paralanguage, which is just body language. And Barbara Walters uses it. How many have seen Barbara Walters interview somebody? Everybody, right? And I have this quote from the New York Times Magazine article. It says, she leans toward her subject, her eyes boring in, almost squinting with intensity. But her facial expression is benign, her body language unthreatening. The unspoken message behind her gaze is, I understand, I care, I'm here for you. And that's how you want to make a person feel, like you really do care about what they're talking about, because that's why you're interviewing them. You want to know who they are. You want to find out all about them. You want to be able to retell their story, or you want them to tell their story. So you really have to care enough to find out. You can also push a source to detail a specific incident. And here's an example I got from the textbook that I used. It says, in court, you said Margaret was a ruthless, brutal woman on her way up the corporate ladder. What kind of behavior and incidents led you to conclude that? And you know you're going to get a good answer out of that question. So try to put the question in context of what you're talking about. And when you're doing an interview with somebody, try to have them say your question in their answer. And you can just have them, you can establish that by saying, I'm going to ask you these questions, and I have to do it all the time, but you're not going to be talking to me. You're going to be talking to, somebody else. I won't even be here. I don't have a microphone. They're not going to hear my question. So would you please incorporate the question into the answer? And if they don't always do it, so if you're taping, you can go back and ask them to say it again, because sometimes they'll just agree with you. And that's doing you no good, because you don't have them saying what they need to say. And if they're not using you, then you're not going to be there, and your question's not going to be there. What happens when your mind goes blank? Yeah, because you're sitting there, and especially if they're taping and everybody's watching you, because, when you're doing television, you're not alone. And then you've got this person who thinks you know what you're doing. One of the techniques that really works is you've heard the last 3 or 4 words that the person said, so you repeat those words and you phrase it as a question. So if you don't know what they're talking about, and the last thing you heard was, and as a result, the building was in terrible shape, and you look at the person and you say, the building was in terrible shape. And you can nod, too, wouldn't you? And they'll say, yeah, the plaster was sagging from the walls, the fixtures had been torn from the pipes, and then, you're out of your coma, so you can start talking again with this person. You can continue your interview. I want you to end with something, but we're going to have one more thing that we do before we leave the class. We have Howie. Come on up, Howie. I want you to interview Howie. Does anybody know him? No. You know Howie? Okay, Howie, you want to grab a microphone? Oh, you have him. Oh, Howie's already mic'd. Okay, so you guys have to figure out who Howie is and why he's here. Now, some logical things to think about. First, he's at Loyola. Second, he's in your class right now, so he must have some contacts in the music business. And John Snyder told him to come over here. So you have 3 clues. So play detective. We're not going to let Howie go until you figure out who he is. I don't know who he is either, so come on, let's go. Ask some questions. Okay. Oh, there's one.
Howie, what do you do for a living?
I do a lot of things for a living, actually.
Could you name a couple of them?
Let's see. Today I was moving a cooler.
You're moving a cooler.
Today I moved a 95-inch reach-in cooler.
Is that part of your regular job, or is that just an odd thing?
It's part of my job description, yes.
Okay, okay.
So is this like a 20 questions thing? Or?
It's going to be at the rate
Okay.
you're going.
I'm not going to make it easy on you, by the way.
Howie's not making it easy. Come on, you can ask him again.
Thanks for your help, by the way.
Hi, Howie.
How you doing?
How is music involved in your everyday life?
Oh, God. Where do I start? This morning, actually, I have a 5-year-old son, and I'm working with his school to start doing a music program. And I spoke with Phil Frazier from the Rebirth Brass Band, and we're going to be working to bring musical programs into the schools. And we were talking about ways to work with the Rebirth Brass Band and some of the other musicians to keep them busy. Because I know that a lot of you guys know that the musicians in this town are having a rough time right now. So particularly today, that was one of my favorite things that I did, because it's a kind of a passion of mine to bring those bands back into the schools.
Oh, Stephen's got a question.
What is your job title?
Do I actually have a job title? Let's see. I'm a janitor. I'm a bartender. I'm a talent buyer. I'm a general manager. Night manager. Accountant. I could probably go on on that one. I put a lot of hats on.
Howie, okay. So you're obviously here today at Loyola looking at all of us students. Which company are you representing today, and how do you think us as students can benefit you?
I represent the Howlin' Wolf Music Club. I'm the owner/general manager. And we met with John Snyder last week to actually figure out ways to answer that question, to work with some of your EU units that y'all are putting together, that have been together for, I think, a few years now, and to figure out what you guys want to do in the music business, not just what I can use you for. We got the question answered.
You did. Good
She got
job.
it.
You nailed it.
She asked it directly.
She needs to get some candy for
Congratulations.
that. Is there anything else you would like to tell them?
It's funny because if you take a look over here, some of you guys may know Stu Shea over here, who is my assistant talent buyer. He was kind of in y'all's, where you guys are sitting, about 5 years ago. And in a few years, he will probably take over all talent buying duties and possibly the general manager position of the Howlin' Wolf. 1,300 capacity club, and a few years ago, he was doing exactly what you guys are doing. So my question to you guys, I guess, because I want to know more, is what do you guys want to do? Why are you sitting in these seats right now? Can anybody answer that question? Or is it just, hey, I'm kind of biding my time until something better comes along, or until I can figure out what I want to do? So essentially, you're ready to start receiving government assistance now? What's the Hunter S. Thompson quote? Does anybody in here know? The music industry is a dark, shallow trench where thieves run free and dogs and good men die like dogs. And then there's a dark side.
He said that about the TV business too.
Pretty close, though. Huh?
It's the same thing.
You had a question?
You had a question.
I just saw a hand raised, so I was going to it.
Oh, well, to answer your question of what I want to do in the industry is just, I want to be able to enjoy my job every day, and I found that music is kind of a category that lets me do that. So I'm open as to where I'm going, but with that in mind.
I have the greatest job in the world. And you know why? Because I love what I do. And I'm just sitting here watching. I'm fascinated just watching you, and I could never do what you do because I don't love what you do. I love what I do.
I wouldn't be a good musician either.
So that is a great answer to the question. Find what it is that you love and then figure out a way. 10 years ago, I was selling beer at Coors Field, running up and down the stairs, selling, ice cold Coors Light. That was essentially my job, and I loved it. I'm a huge baseball fan, so I got to see Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds and all these guys on their home run quest. And so that was a fascinating thing for me, but I couldn't do that anymore. First of all, my knees are shot. But really, I got very lucky, and I got to be able to come in to do something that I love. And then I kind of get to see it with some of you guys, with some of the interns that we've had over the years and some of the students and some of the people that come in as rock stars and as musicians that come in and really enjoy what they do. So if you're going to pick something in the music industry, which is notoriously difficult to make a decent living at, make sure you love what you do and don't just do it just to do it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I would say, unless anybody has any other questions.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And the last thing I wanted to say about interviews is in this life, you only have one thing, and that's your word. And if you ever go back on your word, people find it hard to trust you and hard to deal with you. So if you're interviewing somebody and they ask you if you would avoid talking about this or that, and you agree to avoid talking about this or that, and then you get on that microphone and the camera's in their face and you ask them that question, you will ruin it for yourself and you'll ruin it for them. So you never want to be that person. There's no interview in the world that's worth betraying a trust, and there's nothing, it's really difficult to regain your good name. You all start with a really good name, and you want to keep it that way. And in this business, it's kind of hard to keep your good name. So what you want to do is make sure you keep your word. If you say you're going to do something, if you say you're going to be somewhere, then do it, then be in that place, and be the kind of person that other people will say, yeah, if she said something, I can take that to the bank, because that means more than anything else you can do and pretty much in life. Because if you're that person, you don't have to be in music, you can be in banking, you can be in government, you can be anywhere. As long as you have the trust of the public, it's a good thing. So you do that, and like Howie says, do what you love, the money will follow. Whatever it is you love to do, I tell my students in television all the time, what do you like to do the most? And a lot of people are embarrassed that they like to watch TV. I love to watch TV. I make TV. I live to do TV. So there's just no way in the world that I could ever stop doing that, because it's just some sheep. They're laughing. They probably like to watch TV too. You do? In commercials. Give him cable. but it's one of those things. If you really enjoy something, and especially you're in music and you love TV, guess what? TV uses a lot of music and a lot of new music. So if you want to get into that angle of it, you can do it. I mean, do what you love. Everything else will follow. Thank you. You have been a great audience.
Lisa Martin.